Why do we need inflation? In the next few minutes, we're diving into the world of economic equilibrium, unraveling the mystery of the 2% inflation target, and why it's crucial for your wallet, your job, and the nation's economic health. Stay with us as we decode one of the most pivotal strategies in modern economics. Inflation affects the economy, altering the price of goods over time. It's why the cost of items doesn't remain constant year after year. Inflation is like an economic heartbeat, subtly affecting purchasing power. It shows economic health, indicating stable prices and confident businesses. Too much or too little can be destructive or stagnant. So next time when you're at the grocery store and notice that the price of your favorite cereal has gone up, remember, there's a whole world of economic theory behind that small change. Firstly, a 2% inflation rate signifies price stability. This is a sign of a healthy economy. It allows both consumers and businesses to predict the future cost of goods and services with reasonable accuracy, enabling them to make long-term financial plans. Imagine the peace of mind you'd have knowing that the cost of your favorite chocolate bar won't suddenly skyrocket next year. Secondly, a 2% inflation target helps to sidestep the risks of deflation, which is a general decrease in prices. While it may sound like a good thing on the surface, deflation can cause people to delay purchases in anticipation of even lower prices. This can slow down economic growth, akin to a car running out of fuel. Thirdly, having a moderate level of inflation gives the Federal Reserve more flexibility to monetary policy to stimulate the economy during downturns. When interest rates are already low, the Fed can't reduce them much further to encourage spending. But with some inflation, nominal interest rates can be higher, providing the Fed with more wiggle room to cut rates when needed. Fourthly, inflation assists in managing debt. With a steady inflation rate, the real value of fixed-rate debt decreases over time. This makes it easier for debtors, including the government, to manage their debt burdens. It's like having a weight gradually lifted off your shoulders. Lastly, a certain level of inflation is often associated with stronger economic growth and lower unemployment. By aiming for a 2% inflation rate, the Fed is fostering an economic environment that supports job creation and wage growth. It's like nurturing a garden, ensuring all the conditions are just right for the plants to flourish. So, a 2% inflation rate is not just a random number. It's a carefully chosen target that aims to balance various aspects of economic health. Now let's talk about deflation. It might sound great. Who wouldn't want prices to go down? But in the economic world, deflation can be a nightmare. Deflation is the opposite of inflation. It's when the general level of prices in an economy is falling. Imagine going to the supermarket and finding that everything is cheaper than the last time you visited. Sounds good, right? Well, not quite. When prices fall across the board, it's a sign that demand is low. And when demand is low, businesses suffer, and so does the economy. Here's how deflation can lead to an economic slowdown. Let's say you're thinking about buying a new car, but you've heard that prices are falling, so you decide to wait, thinking you'll get a better deal in a few months. Now, imagine thousands or even millions of people doing the same thing. As a result, car sales plummet, factories slow down production, and workers lose their jobs. This chain reaction can lead to a broader economic downturn. Deflation can also create what's known as a deflationary spiral. This is when falling prices lead to lower production, which leads to lower wages and demand, which leads to further price declines. It's a vicious cycle that can be difficult to break. But that's not all. Deflation can also increase the real value of debt. If you borrowed money to buy a house, for example, and then the prices fall, you're left owing more than your house is worth. This increases the burden of debt, which can lead to further economic problems. So you see, deflation is not just about lower prices, it's about a balance. Too much inflation isn't good, but neither is too much deflation. That's why central banks like the Fed aim for a moderate and steady inflation rate, like 2%. It's a way to keep the economy humming along without veering off into dangerous territory. So while falling prices might seem appealing, they can actually lead to a vicious cycle of economic downturn. Let's bring it back to you. How does this 2% inflation rate affect your daily life? First, let's talk about your cost of living. This refers to the amount you need to cover basic expenses such as food, housing, transportation, taxes, and healthcare. Inflation impacts the cost of your living because as general prices rise, so does the cost of your daily bread and butter. That's why it's important to understand how inflation is shaping the economy. So, Imagine a world without inflation. Prices would stay the same year after year. Sounds great, right? But wait, what about your wages? In a world without inflation, your wages also remain stagnant. So while you're not paying more for your groceries, you're not earning more either. Now let's flip the coin and look at a world with moderate inflation, like our 2% target. Here, prices are gently rising, but so are your wages. You're earning more, and while you're paying a bit more for your goods and services, you're also seeing a growth in your income. That's the balance we're aiming for. But how does inflation help with long-term planning? Well, with a stable inflation rate, you can forecast the future cost of goods and services with a reasonable degree of accuracy. Whether you're a consumer planning a family vacation or a business budgeting for the next fiscal year, this predictability is invaluable. It allows you to make informed decisions and plan for the future with confidence. And let's not forget about your purchasing power. With a steady rate of inflation, your purchasing power remains relatively stable. You'll still be able to afford the things you need and want, and that's crucial for maintaining your standard of living. So, as you see, inflation isn't just for economists to ponder over. It directly impacts your wallet, your plans, and your overall financial well-being. Inflation, then, is not just a number, it's a key determinant of your financial well-being. So, we have unraveled the mystery of the 2% inflation target. But remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Inflation, as we've discovered, isn't just about rising prices. It's a delicate balancing act, a sign of a healthy economy that's growing just enough to keep prices stable and predictable. This stability is crucial for both consumers and businesses, as it allows them to plan their finances with reasonable accuracy. The 2% inflation target isn't some arbitrary number. It's a carefully chosen target that serves multiple purposes. It helps in avoiding the perils of deflation, a general decline in prices that can lead to reduced consumer spending and slow economic growth. Remember, if people anticipate lower prices in the future, they might delay purchases, which can put a damper on economic activity. This 2% target also gives the Federal Reserve, or the Fed, some wiggle room for monetary policy maneuvers. When the economy faces a downturn, the Fed can use this room to stimulate spending. If there's some inflation, nominal interest rates can be higher, which gives the Fed more leeway to cut rates when needed. We've also touched upon how inflation plays a role in debt management. A steady inflation rate can gradually reduce the real value of fixed-rate debt, making it easier for debtors, including the government, to manage their burdens. And let's not forget the link between inflation, employment, and economic growth. A certain level of inflation often goes hand in hand with stronger economic growth and lower unemployment. By aiming for a 2% inflation rate, the Fed is fostering an environment conducive to job creation and wage growth, thereby contributing to overall economic stability and growth. Understanding inflation and the Federal Reserve's 2% target is your first step in becoming more informed about the wider economy. So keep asking, keep learning, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more insightful videos like this one.